أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. Today inshallah we are in part 9 and 10. We come to the chapter فصل فيما يجب عليه الإمساك أثناء النهار. When it is necessary to refrain from eating during the day. قال الإمام يجب الإمساك بقية اليوم على من فسد صومه. يجب الإمساك بقية اليوم على من فسد صومه. If a person breaks his fast, it is necessary to abstain from eating for the remainder of the day. Whatever remains from the day, the person who breaks his or her fast, it is necessary, wajib, upon that person to abstain from eating until the iftar. And this person is also required to make up the day, as we mentioned before. And then Imam says, rahimahullah, وعلى الحائض ونفساء طهرتا بعد طلوع الفجر. If a woman, okay, not man, becomes pure from her menstrual periods or postnatal bleeding or after the delivery, bleeding straight after the true dawn, then she must refrain from eating for the remainder of the day. Of course, she is not obliged to fast, especially after delivery, and it's not allowed actually for her to do so. But the woman, after the menstrual period, and there is a fajr, and before noon it stopped. Once she become pure, it is wajib upon her to continue not using and these rules are in the public. For example, if she's at home, nobody sees her, especially in this time how it is here, so nobody can see you. You can go ahead and have, but at least not in front of the husband or kids to see you, that you are observing food during the daylight in the month of Ramadan, even though you are excused, but they don't know about that. Or husband knows, but the kids, they don't know. So just don't do it in front of them. It's wajib upon, especially if it's position better than insan or any person should avoid any kind of the suspicion things during day light in Ramadan to use anything from the food and drink in public. وعلى الصبي بلغ وكافر أسلم بعد الطلوع، يعني بعد طلوع الفجر، وعليهما القضاء إلا الآخرين. So if a boy matures after true dawn, or a non-Muslim accepts Islam after true dawn, they must abstain from eating for the remainder of the day. And they are not required to make up the day, because they were not obliged to fast even before that, like a sabi, or as I mentioned here, the boy who becomes mature even after the fajr or before noon or after noon, whatever case might be. So he's supposed not to eat publicly until the iftar. Same thing for someone who accepted Islam even before, after fajr or before noon or afternoon or closed after asr, whatever the case might be. So should be explained not to eat anything because of the sanctity of the month of Ramadan. And they are not required to make up the day of fasting as well. While the person in the point 1 and 2 that we mentioned, which is the person who breaks his fast and the woman, in the second case, they are obliged to make up the day after a while. And then Imam says, فصل فيما يكره للصائم وفيما لا يكره وما يستحب, which means what is disliked when fasting and what is recommended. So basically, what is disliked to do during the fast and what is not disliked during the fast, and what is recommended while fasting. Okay. ما يكره للصائم, Imam says, dislike actions when fasting. So these things are disliked to do during the daylight in the month of Ramadan. كره للصائم سبعة أشياء. There are seven things that are disliked when fasting to anyone, male or female. ذوق شيء بلا عذر. To taste something with no reason is disliked. Is disliked to taste something. For example, if a woman has a harsh husband who will rebuke and create, some issue and argue if she increases or decreases the salt in the food or any other kind that he may not like. So she may test the food, see how it is. If her case with the husband is that, or the opposite, if the husband is the one, because we don't know in these days who is cooking, who is not. So it could be issue that husband has harsh, wife who can rebuke him for increase or decrease of the salt or anything. So in both conditions, so it is allowed if there is a must. Otherwise, should avoid it. ومضغه بلا عذر ومضغ العلق. Chewing something without a valid reason is dislike, or chewing the gum. It is, however, permitted if there is a need, dire need for it, such as chewing a small, for example, child's food when feeding it, or if there is a must. Equally as chewing on gum is disliked unless there is a reason. If there is a gums, there is no sugar, there is no artificial things added to it. But even chewing it publicly, it may create some fitna, and we should avoid that, because the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever believes in Allah and the last day should not stand in the position of blame. You should just avoid as much as possible, especially when we come to the month of the Ramadan. والقبلة والمباشرة إن لم يأمن فيهما على نفسه الإنزال أو جماع في ظاهر الرواية. Kissing and hugging while fasting is disliked if one is not sure of himself or herself about having an orgasm or sexual intercourse as a result of such act. So someone must avoid it as much as possible, because those things, touching, kissing, and playing, it can ruin our fasting as well, and especially if someone is unable to control himself or herself, will completely void our fast. So that is makruh as well, disliked act. And then وجمع الريق في الفم ثم ابتلاعه. الريق, gathering the saliva in the mouth and then swallowing it, is act disliked, which means you are collecting your saliva in the mouth for big amount and then you swallow at once. So that is disliked act to do it as well. It is disliked to perform any act وما ظن أنه يضعفه كالفصل والحجامة. So it is disliked to perform any act which is believed to weaken one from fasting, such as capping and bloodletting, or what they call it. I forgot the name of it. So taking the blood from the vein, so that things, it could awaken our body, especially if insan is becomes a weak. And hijama is cupping, taking the blood from the body, so it can, or working physically very hard jobs, that can make us, losing our power and got more thirsty and so on. So if somebody is able to avoid it, it is much much better. ثم قال الإمام ما لا يكره للصائم. What is not disliked when fasting? So things are not disliked, so you can do it. And Imam said وتسعة أشياء لا تكره للصائم. There are 9 things that are not disliked when fasting. لا تكره للصائم. 9 أشياء لا تكره للصائم. There are 9 things that are not disliked when fasting. And he said, Al-Qublat wal-Mubashara ma'al-Amn. He mentions kissing and hugging is not disliked provided one is sure and in full control of himself or herself that it will not lead to orgasm or sexual intercourse. Yeah. So in the first, if somebody is weak, cannot control himself or herself, then it is not okay to do it, disliked. You should avoid it. But if somebody is able to do so and knowing that he's or she is fasting, so then it's okay. But preferably is to avoid it as much as possible. ودهن الشارب, rubbing oil on or lotion on the onto the mustache is not disliked during the fast. So if you put some oil, it's not. The application of kahl, eyeliner, putting on the is not disliked because there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that he applied kahl whilst fasting. So it is okay. Hijama, cupping, is not disliked provided that, if you believe that will not harm you and weaken your body. And the fist as well, bloodletting is not disliked if one believes he will not be tired or he will not be weak. So these things, some of them are makruh for one group of the people and others are not. والسواك آخر النهار بل هو سنة كأوله ولو كان رطبا أو مبلولا بالماء. There is no dislike to use the siwak at the end of the day. Rather, it is sunnah just like it is at the beginning of the day. So basically, using the siwak is sunnah at any time, even if it's moist with the water. So there is nothing else because that is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. There's a hadith, the siwak is sunnah to perform at any time you wish. And Imam Shafi'i said it is disliked. In the madhab al-Shafi'i, disliked. So that's why we're saying the fasting in the some rules of the fasting. Majority of them are same in the 4 madhabs, but there's a little bit different. Like this one, for example, using the siwak. In Hanafi says okay, but Shafi says it is not. So والمضمضة والاستشاق لغير الوضوء والاغتسال والتلفف بالثوب مبتل للبرد على المفتي به على المفتي مفتى به rinsing the mouth or nostrils, which means putting in a lot of the water in the mouth and the nose and washing them for other than wudu. If you remember, we mentioned that taking a lot of water in the mouth and nose can break our fast if it goes down and we have to make up the day. But in this case, it is allowed if there is a dust, if there is, hot or you need some, water to refresh yourself. It's okay, but you need to be still careful of not going down. If it goes, then you break your fast and then you have to make it up. So it is not, it is okay to do so. And then it is okay as well to cover yourself with the clothes or dressing the wet clothes to cool down And the fatwa issued is accordance with this view as well, because there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that he used to pour water on his head while fasting due to thirst or heat. And Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anh, he used to cover or to dress the clothes and wrap himself, in them while fasting, so to cool himself. So that is allowed as well. And lastly, ma yustahabbu lis-saim, that which is recommended when fast. So what there is a things or three things in this case is mentioned here by Imam. They're allowed for a fasting person to do. ويستحب له ثلاثة أشياء. There are three things that are recommended for the one observing fast. Number one is سحور وتأخيره وتعجيل الفطر في غير يوم ذي. Sahur, the pre-dawn meal, sahur, is recommended. The Prophet ﷺ said, observe sahur, for very there is a blessing in the sahur. So if not for the hunger, then because of the blessings that Prophet mentioned, we should practice this act. Number two, ta'khir, to delay the pre-dawn meal to the very close to the fajr, very close to the dawn, is recommended as much as possible, because the Prophet ﷺ said there is three things. Three things are from the qualities of the messenger of Allah. So of the messenger, quality of the messengers. And number one, to break the fast immediately upon sunset, to make iftar, as long as there is azan, do it immediately. To delay sahur, and to place the right hand over the left hand in the prayer. So that is sunnah as well. And then he said, وَتَعْجِيلُ الْفِطْرِ, to be hastened the breaking the fast on the day where there is no obstruction or clouds in the sky. We don't have this issue today, so we can just we are mentioning here this only because of the barakah of ilm, the blessing of the ilm. But we don't, because we have a taqweem, and we know exactly when we start our fast and when we'll break our fast. So there is no big deal if there is clouds, if there is obstruction sky or this and that. So we have our schedule, just follow it, and there is no need to bother yourself. So this one is we don't have apply this third condition or third advice. That's it for today, inshallah, this 9th and 10th bar. So we'll continue for the next time about other issue, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help all of us, to bless us and guide us to the straight path. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatuhu ta'ala wa barakatuh.